Hello, my name is Chad from Higher Living. We're up to episode 15, and today we're going into anxiety. We're looking at anxiety, and we're going to get there via a very helpful example, which is in relation to exercise. Now, you'll see how we connect those dots because there's a central point. There is one central point that you will hear about how increasing your knowledge and gaining an understanding about your capacity to have a solution can help you to reduce your anxiety. Now, we know that because what happens when you feel anxious, right? What usually goes on for you? Maybe there's more rapid breathing. Yeah. Maybe you feel those heart palpitations. Maybe you get like sweaty hands. Maybe there's that fear of what is going on for me. Maybe you feel something in your belly, right? It's different for all of us. But what is central to it is that there is an uncertainty about what is going on for you and will I be okay? And so if you have knowledge that, I have a solution, what is that going to mean for your anxiety? With that, today's episode of Higher Living with Chad, we're going into anxiety. Let's get started. Let me tell you about how we're going to go into anxiety, and I'm going to make reference to this quick tweet that I did this week. And there's a little bit of a backstory to it. So here it goes. This may be similar for you as well. It all started around 2020. We know what happened in 2020. A lot of changes. You may have seen your phone usage go up. You may have seen exercise levels change. You may have seen employment change. A whole lot of changes went on, right? And so just looking at myself, so I was wearing a watch, a smartwatch, probably around 2017, 2018. I then have been living a very sedentary life for a while. I still do my exercise, and this story is going to link to how this knowledge, right, and the data that I obtained on my health was able to result in behavior change for me. And so what happened was I knew what my resting heart rate was for a while. And basically there was age was on my side. I had a lot more time and freedom. And people would look at that and say, but you didn't have time. You were a dying cancer patient. I never thought I was a dying cancer patient back in the time. I always knew that I had time. I thought I had time. And a lot of that time was invested into my health. And so looking at my trends in where I was actually, particularly when I came out of those 4 years of treatment, I was in really good shape. And so that was, I was probably a little bit underweight. Diet had a big influence in that, and overall lifestyle. But basically, a few metrics that I looked at that time. One of them was my resting heart rate, right? One of them was my resting heart rate, and the other one was my max heart rate and my heart rate variability. All of that is now accessible within your On Tracker if you want to check it out, and there's going to be changes that come up. But that's not what we're looking at. What some of that data showed to me when I then got a watch this year. So I had a long break. I probably had four-year break. What I was able to see is my resting heart rate went up by over 10%. And so I went from a 35-year-old to a 39-year-old. And what I saw was that my body was telling me, you don't live the same way as you once did. You get up and you go onto your computer or you go into your phone after you do some breathing and cold showers. So don't get me wrong. I still live by my habits, but doing an assessment and being ruthless of myself really showed that my lifestyle and the way I was living my life had to have some changes. And so having a really good measurement of my heart health was able to result in me going, oh my gosh, like I've got a point in my life at the moment where I need to make a change, right? So I need to make an active change and not just go to the gym and be one of those people. I'm not saying I did it all the time, but I need to put my hand up. Sometimes I'd be at the gym and I'd have my phone and I would be one of those people in between exercises, just sitting there and kind of scrolling, right? Kind of scrolling at times. I wasn't like that all the time, but that was me. No thought about, hey, let's try to activate my heart rate. And often it would be a case of, oh, I've got this next meeting or I've got this stress and let me just go. I used to call it GYM. So GIM. I used to schedule it in my calendar. I used to go down there and I used to think about it like therapy, but I used to condense it at times into like 20 minutes, 25 minutes. At least I've done it. At least I've done it. I've ticked the box. I've ticked the box. And that was okay. That was okay for where I was. But then I got some new information. I got some new information that was basically, it was like, if I continue to live this way, what's my trajectory? What is my trajectory in the future for how I'm going to be able to live my life and the level of vitality that's in my life? And then if I'm more sedentary, if I have less vitality, if I'm less healthy, what's then going to be going on in terms of how I think, feel, and operate? Right. So with that, I was like, I need to make a change. And I started cycling, I started sweating, I started doing a whole heap of things at the gym to ensure that when I was there, I was activating my heart rate continuously. Now, I've kind of done this in a way where I could have probably got an acceleration. I could have accelerated and got here faster. But again, the typical way that I am, and I hope I changed it, but I trip and fall. I trip and fall a few times before then going, oh, that's kind of my right path. And okay, now this is where I need to be for now. And this is where I'm at. And so I was doing a little bit of cycling. I was ensuring that I was walking my dogs a little bit more, got to Australia and did hot yoga and sorted it all changed because I was doing hot yoga. So I was sweating a lot. And then in that process, I then got a notification one day and I was like, what's up? And it was like, I've maxed out my heart rate zone. So what that means is that regardless of what your age is, we all have, it's in terms of your biology, what we can do is look at what sort of approximate zones we should be in so that we can be hitting, your heart rate's not working at a level where you're getting any benefit, right? Then you can get into, say, where you're in a cardio zone, you can get into your max heart rate, and there's also a fat burning zone as well. So very easy to look at, and we can put some scales below so you can just reference some of that information. What I realized after I was doing a bit of hot yoga was that I was maxing out more so after doing yoga than I was when I was having an intended focus with cardio. And so that was another game changer for me where I was like, oh, wow, this is something that I need to continue doing, right? So I will continue on that pathway. Got back here, hot yoga isn't in Peru. It isn't the same. So then I needed to look at a new solution. And what I've been doing is ensuring that I add my legs and I'm going into the gym and I'm activating that heart rate and I'm running up some stairs at the end of the session to ensure that I'm hitting the certain zones that I want to be operating at. Right. So as a result of that, I'm feeling much better. I've got a very clear plan of how to do that at the moment, and it's working. And I'm getting the data to help inform me. And so sometimes I could be at the gym and I'm like, okay, cool. I've kind of got myself into the zone. And I know that I need to activate that heart rate and then I need to maintain it for the rest of the session while I add in some strength and conditioning training. And it's increased. I'm approaching 40. So the need to be more versatile in my approach to physical activity is more evident at the moment. I want to be here for a long time. And so I know that is essential. So it isn't only about strength and conditioning for me, but it's adding in some of these other components. Now, let me tell you how this links into anxiety, right? So what I'm able to see now is once I get into the gym, I know by looking at that when I can get into zone and then how I can stay in my zone and I get the accomplishment that's associated with it. And obviously there's gains that I'm making myself, right? So linking it back to anxiety, and then let's bring in something like cannabis, right? So this is where I want to go. And this is where I think there's going to be value for you. So if you've been listening to this first bit and you're like, oh, you're just rambling, whatever your message is in, whatever you receive from that first section, whatever age you are, there's a need for you to focus on your physical health. And so if you can take a little bit from what I've just said, start small and start edging yourself up, well, I've got to win myself because you're taking action in your health, and I've been able to assist in that in some ways. So I'm happy about that. Now let's get to anxiety, right? So if you're feeling anxious, and what we said before is how would that present to you? So do you notice your heart at times kind of races? Do you feel anything in your stomach? Do you get those sweaty, clammy hands? Like, are there other symptoms that you feel a shortness of breath? Yeah, maybe the anxiety kind of rises and you feel like your chest is being squeezed. All these aren't great feelings. And what we know is that there are some really good interventions that are increasingly coming for individuals, and cannabis is one of them. And that could be high doses of CBD, or it could be THC at the right level for you as well. But often it comes back to an uncertainty. What can I do? And I don't have a solution. And if it gets really intense and if it's really pronounced, it is like, if you are approaching a point where that anxiety is not under control and it's coming in these bursts, it can then spiral. And then it can get to a point where it becomes very pronounced, and you could feel like you're having a panic attack, which then makes you feel like you've got a heart attack coming, right? It's hard to differentiate between the two. We know that. And so what that means is you're going to hit that heart is going to be like, oh my gosh, what's happening, right? And so how do we control that? Now, cannabis can be super effective. But what I want to add on to that is think about the behavior change that I had, and I've just mentioned, with my physical exercise. Now let's think about if we were able to understand, and let's hypothesize for a moment, right? Let's notice that there's something that makes you anxious. Maybe it's a text message from someone that you see. Maybe it's a work deadline. Maybe it's the reminder about your finances. Maybe there's anxiety about a loved one. Maybe there's anxiety about your health. Maybe there's anxiety about the world falling apart, right? Like, who knows what it is for you? But there could be these triggers, right, that signal one of those physical responses in your body when that anxiety rises. Now, what one potential solution could be would be to take some cannabis at the right level. We know that if you tip into a THC, which isn't right for your body and where you are at the moment, that anxiety could actually increase. So just be mindful, consult a doctor as always around what dosing looks like for you and is most optimal. But let's think about that. So you say you're getting feeling a little bit anxious and you take some cannabis, and then you kind of just drift back into Instagram or the chaos of the world or wherever you go, right? We're all distracted, and you just go on your day. I believe, and what I'm proposing here, is that you've kind of missed a fairly key point, and that is that there's no knowledge associated with what has been done. So you've got that solution and you're like, okay, I feel a little bit better now, but that doesn't really sink in and be anchored to, I have something that helps me. So let's say there's and we're going to do this for an average across everyone, right? So let's say there's an average resting heart rate of like 70 beats per minute, right? So yeah, 70 beats per minute. I don't know what yours is. Mine is lower at the moment, but let's go for 70. So let's say that you've got your anxiety is heightened, and let's say that comes up by about 15%. And then let's say that you get a 30% increase for when that anxiety is pronounced, right? What would happen for you if you have that knowledge that once you dose your cannabis, you're then able to see the end result to go, oh, what? I know when I had this and I was feeling anxious, I know my heart rate was like at 85. Now I'm back down to 70. But what happens if it was more? What would the power of the data do to you to inform your decision-making and help you have behavior change? And then what would it do to your situation knowing that I have a solution and it gets me to this destination, right? So this destination is behavior change. What is it going to mean when that next wave of anxiety comes for you? And maybe you feel something early happening, but you're like, oh, wait, I know knowledge. I know that I've got a solution and that it works and that it makes me feel better. What happens to your anxiety, which is fueled by an uncertainty about what is going to happen to me? What happens to you when you know, I am anxious, I'm starting to feel anxious. Oh, but I know I can get better. And I know I can get better within 30 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, because I've got my medicine and I've got my response to be able to tell me I can come back to a normal point. So maybe things aren't as bad as they are. That is my question for you about the power of data, about the power of data to then be able to bring this area into cannabis. And that is what OnTracker is doing. We've looked at what's happened in, oh, you got to do your 10,000 steps. Now you got to get in your health zones. And we know that leads to behavior change. So what happens when you or a loved one has anxiety and now you're able to understand with data that I actually have a solution and this medicine is effective for me? What does it mean for you? What does it mean for your journey? And what does it mean for us as a whole when we're unpacking mental health and this spiraling crisis, when actually we may have it all here, but we just need to connect those dots a little bit better? Yeah. And what I'm doing and what my team is doing at OnTracker is helping you to connect those dots with data. And we got our best release coming in 3 weeks. We've got something coming, which I'm super excited about, and you're going to be able to see that in 3 weeks, and we'll start dropping it in the next few weeks so that this small and growing base of our community is able to benefit from that. But this is what we're talking about today. We wanted to link the importance of physical activity, your physical health linked, and we wanted to associate that with anxiety and how you can create behavior change for yourself or those that love or those around you. This was Chad. High Living, episode 15. Thank you very much.